Our first speaker is Marie Kelly, and she has 15 years of experiential experience on the agency side, working with brands like Google and P&G, and now, of course, she's on the brand side at the Sloomoo Institute, and she is their strategic partnership, whoops, I skipped, head of marketing and strategic partnerships at Sloomoo. So Marie, come on up.
Thank you guys, and thank you, Lisa, for the introduction. This is a little indulgent ASMR content, just for fun. I love the idea of extreme experiential. That's like an action film. So we, as Lisa mentioned, are brand experience rooted in sensory play, based first in New York and then have rapidly been expanding into Atlanta and Chicago. Before we dive in, and I've got lots of fun slides to share, I wanted to just have a moment to get to know you guys. And the dinner last night and getting to mix and mingle a little bit has been really lovely. I know that we've got some folks who have been to the venue in New York. Carrie from Gen 3, I got to see a fun picture. Besides Carrie, has anyone been to one of the Sloomoo spaces? No, okay. I do have a little fun prizes, so Carrie, I'm gonna give you a little treat for being a special guest in some of our spaces. Before I share more, can anyone guess, and I'll give either the correct answer or most creative answer, where Sloomoo as a name came from? Raise your hands. No? You know. I believe in positive reinforcement, so I have product I'm going to give you if you can guess it correctly. What's that? The seal? No, but interesting. I see a hand back there. Slow movement, no, also interesting. Anyone else? Okay, so there was actually a slime, in the slime community, which is a very cult following community, very hyper passionate, there was a trend going on where you get to change your personal name to your slime name if you replace your vowels with double O's. So Marie becomes Muru and slime becomes Sloomoo, and so one of the first things that any guest who comes into our space does is they change their personal name to their slime name and they get a little name tag. And it's our invitation to welcome you in and also basically ask you to leave your outside self at the door and come in and have permission to play. I'm gonna give the two folks that were willing to answer a little prize if you wanna come up. So there is a full-sized big slime in here. Everyone else is gonna get a chance to get some later, but thank you guys for playing along. So the brand we're female founded and led, so this is Karen and Sarah, they're our co-founders. They started out as personal friends. They've known each other for 15 years, both very tenured entrepreneurs outside of this now very interesting, bright, happy, wacky, fun business that we now have, and they've become co-founders of this brand. What I'm going to share is a very personal story that brought them on a very non-traditional path to creating this business. And I'm not sharing out of turn. They both share their story openly. Karen lost her husband due to mental health, and shortly thereafter lost her niece in the Parkland shooting. And she was in a deep depression and was very much struggling and was working with everyone from Reiki healers to shamans to energy workers to therapy. And really was doing anything she could to keep both feet on the ground. And Sarah, who is her personal friend, and both very type A entrepreneurs, hustlers in the city, very big in the arts world. Sarah is a mom of two. One of her daughters is nonverbal special needs. She was born with Angelman syndrome. And she and her husband were very prolific in the arts world, in the speaking world. They've done TED Talks together. Her husband, Mark, unexpectedly had a stroke and is now, to this day, also nonverbal and has 24-hour care for his physical needs as well. So these two women, as personal friends, were really supporting each other in pretty harrowing moments in their lives that completely changed their professional path. Karen came from fashion and publishing and editorial and owned an influencer agency. Sarah was in hospitality, owned Meet, the corporate meeting spaces. They're both on the board of the Brooklyn Museum, and their worlds completely changed. Karen had one day a friend come visit her just to spend time with her, and the friend brought their child. And rather than hanging out with her girlfriend, she sat on the floor and played with slime for an hour and a half with her friend's child, and that's what she brought, thinking she was gonna have to entertain herself while the adults hung out. And by the time that they left that day, Karen was like, what is this? Where do I get more of this? And tell me who to follow, where do I go? And so this child told her all of the young influencer slimers, and Karen started as a almost 50-year-old woman at the time, now 50 plus, buying slime and became a slimer as an adult. And started bringing it to Sarah when they would hang out as friends. And what was once a week became every day, and ultimately they put their business hats on. They're like, we should do something with this. And that's when they birthed the space in New York, which was originally going to be a temporary pop-up space. The brand is rooted in delivering joy. That's everything that we do. You can see as we share more here, but also in even this outfit or the products, that it's bright and happy and colorful. But we are also deeply mission-driven based on the founder's story. So it's woven into everything we're doing. We focus on mental health and neurodiversity as our two core commitments. And it's not 10 layers deep or something we write a check once a year or two. We have a commitment to a neurodiverse workforce. We have a partnership with Goldie Hawn's foundation, Mind Up, that focuses on mental health for today's youth. We are working with a variety of partners, everything from the mayor's office and their neurodiverse team members, and more and more and more. We also have sensory hours and many other things. The other three here are sustainability, DEI, and education, are core underpinnings that we bring forward in all of the things we do as well. So efficacy is something really interesting. We're actually doing a mental health survey that we started as a small format, and we're expanding into a much bigger format, going from hundreds to thousands. But this is a quote from a resident psychiatrist that we have as part of our world, speaking about the value of play and the connection to others and endorphins and many other things. So we've seen it, we've lived it. Karen is a first person lived experience. We see it in our guests every day, the impact. And then we receive inbound inquiries constantly. And a lot of you, we spoke about this last night at the happy hour and then at dinner, from residents of a dementia facility to those struggling with substance abuse to self-harm to caregivers at Ronald McDonald House that are sitting with their children and needing something to pass time or bring themselves back into their body. These are a couple quick stats. So the business, while we have brick and mortar spaces, we also have a huge digital presence. So as I mentioned, we opened in 2019. We see over 30,000 guests a month in each of our spaces, and we're continuing to see those numbers grow. In Atlanta, this is our largest location. It's like being a parent with many children. We can't have favorites, but Atlanta is our largest, and it's very impressive if you guys happen to visit, which I hope you do. And then Chicago, where some of you I know are from Chicago, 820 North Orleans, come visit us. We've got a large growing database. I know a lot of you work in loyalty programs and customer acquisition and SMS, so we're continuing to optimize and change out a lot of our systems. Actually, right now, we're in the process of that. We have two ways that we're getting to folks. So we have, from a conversion perspective, Shopify is our e-commerce platform, and we use Ticketure as our ticketing platform. And then social is huge for us. So Amy, if she wants to wave, leads our community management for social. We have 1.7 million followers on our TikTok. It's a huge audience, but also very beloved audience that keeps us accountable, but also has fun with us. And they also do convert as customers. We have people coming in saying, I've been following you for over 2 years, and we're in town, and we had to come, or this is the reason we flew in from Australia. So it's amazing. I should not be surprised anymore when this happens, but I still am. I'm delighted by the stories that we get to hear. So I think, this is interesting to talk about. We have kind of first the founder story to, we actually make the slime that you guys just got, and more of you will get later, we actually make on property. So if you come into the venue, we're running like a Michelin star kitchen, which we're about to start doing ticketed tours of, so you'll get to see behind the scenes, plus running the experience, plus having the retail and e-commerce. And we also expand beyond just slime, which is another reason why we went with something like Sloomoo versus Slime Museum or Slime Institute. So the intention, desire, and current action is that we're expanding into the sensory universe. So things like Poppets and Plushies and Kinetic Sand, who's a partner of ours. We also have, which will be coming down the horizon line, an entertainment division that we're launching. So this little character that you see is named Sloomoo as well. And there's a whole universe of characters. So we're working on a children's book and film series and many more things. So coming into the Sloomoo-verse, which teaching that vocabulary is quite the journey. We have synthesoothers, and our scent wall is like moods and vibes, very intensely beneficial, energizing scents. So it's like lots of fun terms. So this, I think Lisa touched on this a little bit. So culture, community, and cause. This is really internal speak. We don't share this with consumers, but this is how we bucket a lot of what we do. We tap into the cultural space, as I mentioned. The founders are on the board of the Brooklyn Museum. They're major collectors. They're very into the contemporary art and street art scene. So a lot of our design references are pulled from that, but also in my role, what I'm doing often is partnering with groups like in Chicago, the MCA, which is the Museum of Contemporary Art, or the Museum of Science, or a myriad of other cultural institutions, to partnering with community groups from the parent groups to various city organizations, et cetera, and then cause. So as I mentioned, the philanthropic side of what we're doing is both at the kind of macro level and on the micro level. A little bit about our consumers. So we're not just for kids, for all ages. And we get a lot of really sweet stories. We actually had a woman that came in recently with her grandkids, and she's like, do I have to pay for my own ticket? I don't want to do this, and can't they just go? And our GM was like, no, trust us, it's for everyone. And she came around the end, and she was like, oh my God, that was the most fun I've had in so long. I came in as an 89-year-old woman, and I'm leaving feeling like a 9-year-old. And she's like, this is, and then she proceeded to follow up with a extensive email basically saying the same thing, which was very sweet. So the adults often come in for the kids, but then it's like the kids are like the Trojan horse. The adults leave being the converted audience themselves too. And then we do get a lot of kind of like the trendsetter, cool kid, cultural pariah scene. And then some of you might recognize John Stamos. We get what we call internally the unexpected slimers. So people that you would never imagine would want to come in and play and do. So John Stamos came in on his own. We didn't book him without the kids. Came in on a date night. So it's these like niche segments, and some of it is organic, some of it's intentional, but regardless, these are all different segments that we're speaking to. So our community is hyper engaged. They often are repeat visitors, very loyal, return buyers, and they become self-selected brand ambassadors. So they're wearing our beanie, they're carrying our tote bags. We've started to do almost like a hashtag spotted. We get pictures from like Tel Aviv and LA and Miami and Canada, which is really fun to see because it's quite noticeable with the big eyeballs, as you can see. So it's just a little bit of like fun to the audience love. And then we touch our audience in a variety of ways of how we gain access to them. So everything from the space to we have kits and mailers that we send out. We've done virtual classes much more actively in the pandemic, and less so now, but we still do. And from a cultural standpoint with some of the partnerships that we have, we'll still do them. So when I first started, we did one with 200 executives around the globe from Yahoo, where they were bringing their global teams together for the first time. And we shipped out custom-made little slimes that were made for Yahoo. They had like a little succulent desktopper that was brand colors, and if you let it air dry, you can save it forever. So it could be like a desk piece, or you could play with it. We did a business talk like this, but then did a full play session, which was great. And then our retail spaces and social as well. So we have a lot of tentacles to the kind of full machine. And from a content perspective, we're running essentially an always-on in-house content machine. So we're pumping out content across our social channels. We're running multiple newsletters a week. We're currently doing, but intend to do more with things like YouTube series. And then we've got a variety of programming. So this happens at the macro and micro level. And some of this is stuff that we're doing. Some of it is after hours. Some of it is during public hours. And it's also something that we look to bring in brands to work with us on. So we do underserved mornings, and we hope to do more. And we'd love to bring on a brand partners, if you know any, that wants to work with us, so we can open our doors and bring in youth segments that don't typically have access to these types of things. So a little behind the scenes on our go-to-market. So we went from 1 city to 3 cities in 24 hours, which was quite the sprint. So we actually opened our Atlanta and Chicago markets on the same day in November of this past year. We are slated to be in 10 cities by the end of next year, so we are not slowing down. We have 2 more opening this fall. And more to come, as I mentioned. So from a comms standpoint, when we first were going to market, we were using our core. So it was taking our existing customer and getting them to convert to the next layer. They're our most impassioned audience, and so using them as a converter community. We also worked very actively, and we tend to do this always, but from a top-down standpoint. So we have a lot of efforts going on from a media standpoint, influencer standpoint, partnering with other businesses, as I mentioned, to help to create new funnels to bring in new audience segments to us. And then from a paid perspective, that's really where we were going in with hyper-targeted audience segmentations in the new markets. And that became a little later down the funnel, which I'll speak about here. So 6 months out, which we're creeping in on that right now for our next expansion round, we really spent our time relationship developing. The co-founder, Karen, and I went to market, met with city stakeholders, started meeting with agency partners, basically building our army of resources. And that is a slow burn game that is still paying now out in dividends, which is super important to us as we're opening up in these markets, because we're not planning to be there for 6 months, we're planning to be there for years and years. So it's important that we are ingraining ourselves in the cities we're in and finding unique ways to extend into different sectors. 90 days out is really when we started hitting more of like the earned media side and starting to tell our story publicly. 30 days out was, okay, this is the time, this is the month, et cetera. I was saying to Lisa over breakfast this morning that we have a very intimate relationship, myself and the operations team, because we're in sprint mode to build these spaces, and it's like we're getting done and dusted right as we open the door. So I'm like, okay, I'm telling the public, this is our day. Are we ready to commit to this day? And then really kind of going into launch week was a full kind of experiential week. So that was everything from early access tours to media events to underserved mornings to 21 plus parties, which are super fun. We've done sip and slime and cocktails and play, really skewing for the adult audience. And then the 30 days to 3 months post has become super critical for us. So we're the new kid in town. New York, we were a bit of a darling. It was our backyard, and our founders had deep benches in those cities, in New York specifically. So now we're still establishing ourselves. I think looking at this in preparation for today, I was kind of reflecting. I feel like the bookends of this timeline and launch week are probably the most critical for us. It's the relationship development, the continuation of the efforts, and then really extending in the launch week moment of getting ourselves off the ground. This is a little bit of just like some of the assets that are, you guys all know this because you work either on the brand or on the execution side with agencies and platforms, but whole suites of all the assets across all channels. Lisa was asking, did it help us, or what was the pros and cons of launching at the same time? I said from a comm standpoint, it actually simplified because we were making all of the assets and running on the same timeline. But from a deployment perspective, I think we had more wins on the reverberation post-launch, but it's definitely a stretch for the team internally as Amy smirks thinking about the next round. So I've touched on this a little bit. These are some of the different groups that we partner with on a local level, and it's continuing to expand. So we find other segments like religious groups, even over the holidays, we've brought in and are partnering with those communities too. So this is very much part of our kind of always on machine. And there's stuff we're still learning, right? We don't have all the answers, we're trying, and the founders also have a high appetite to test and learn and try and explore and push, and if it works, great, let's keep doing it, let's scale it. If it doesn't, let's sunset it and move on. So some of the things that we want to do now in this next round, so we didn't really do as good of a job as we should have done with list building. We did, but it wasn't as robust as we wanted. Grassroots, that's my life in this industry has been on the grassroots and experiential side. It's sometimes the first thing to get cut. So a few months out from launch, we're we got to tighten the budget. It's one of the first things that had to go. But it is really important that we're showing up and fishing where the fish are, where people are outside of our venue. So that's not something we're going to sacrifice again. Out of home, this is an area we want to play. We're doing kind of not traditional, but we're keeping our paid budgets in the social space, but we want to start getting a little more creative with our mediums as we move ahead. VIP mailers, I know there's someone in here that works in influencer. This is one that we're still debating with my team. But, we send out these beautiful kits. took a lot of time and energy and brain power to get the lists and aggregate with the PR teams and get them out to the right people. I said, I didn't see the return. I didn't see posting. It wasn't worth, it was a lot of effort with not as much reward. Great from a VIP invite standpoint, send them a beautiful box, but if the hope is the conversion from a posting standpoint, I was I'm not seeing it. So we're adjusting the strategy, and it might become more of a broadcast approach as an example. This next one, so we also tested driving people directly to our ticketing page as a immediate converter to see if that would help drive ticket sales. Was not successful. We pivoted, went back to taking people from a path standpoint to our primary website, because that's where our storytelling is. So especially as we're coming into a new market and people don't know what Sloomoo is, what it means, it's a new language we're introducing, never mind trying to get you to buy and come. And then the things that did work that we're going to continue doing probably forever, Karen and I share a background in really the strength of kind of media and influencers supporting what a business like this does. The partner collaborations is super important and also really creatively fun for us. It diversifies more than what we're doing ourselves and creates new opportunities. And then I think this last one, the overt creative narrative, goes back to that language point. We also tried a little bit of something's coming and get excited, it's a mystery. And it's no, we just have to say, this is awesome. Here's the 4 cool things. Come, you're gonna regret it if you don't. Yeah, mystery did not work for us. So we have, like I mentioned, super, super healthy press, and that's on purpose, and we work hard to make that be the case, and we continue to strive for that. We recently, if you guys didn't see it, it was a very exciting moment. We got a 2-page feature in People magazine in the Prince Harry edition, which was a very highly circulated issue. And these things take time. This was a year of back and forth with people, and then the timing finally made sense post-launch. And then that one thing begets the next, so then we got a call from ABC to be on the Tamron Hall show, which then she came in, and more and more. And our media strategy is across the spectrum, from something like People, mass consumer and lifestyle, to business stories like Forbes, to CNN, which was actually a travel piece about how we're choosing our markets and why we're going to where we're going, to the Today Show, which was actually a story that started out about our neurodiverse workforce and then became a wider business story. And these are just a few of some of our fun celebrity guests. From an influencer and talent standpoint, we've never paid anyone. These are people that are either coming in on their own volition, or that we have a relationship with, or that we're reaching out to and inviting in. And we have party rooms, and we have had fun celebrity birthday parties that have taken place as well. And some MBA grad school students that came in and partied after finals too. This is a little behind the scenes. So this is our New York space, Chicago, and Atlanta. Each space draws reference from other markets, but we also are slightly modifying, tweaking, adding new things, trying something different, putting in a different execution, and also introducing new brand partners. So the bottom center image is actually a fully immersive experience we created for Kinetic Sand, who's a partner. So we created these crystal geode type structures that have an infinity mirror that are inspired by Yayoi Kusama and her infinity mirror, to get your hands in the sand and play in our day glow room. And then this is kind of giving you a little bit of a under the hood on what's to come from an entertainment standpoint that I mentioned earlier. So everything from an animated series to gaming in the metaverse to film development and much more. So without further ado, we're going to show you a fun little video.
Sarah and Karen are opening their 3rd Sloomoo Institute.
This is amazing. You're never going to get me out of this place. This place is so cool.
And slime comes to Chicago, or Sloomoo in its official capacity. This playground for kids and adults where slime is free-flowing.
Press the button. Is this for real?
You really transform yourself when you come in. You get your slime name, and that's giving you that permission to play. From there, you go on a journey where you can slingshot slime, you can have slime dumped on you.
We have every texture, everything smells different, every moment is a discovery. You're making your own slime, you're walking on slime, you're smearing it against the wall. Kind of unbelievable. In the first month, we had a massive celebrity guest list. We walked in one day and we were like, oh my God, it's Kerry Washington, it's Drew Barrymore, it's Tracy Morgan, it's Jessica Alba. They were all sharing it.
drink. It's fantastic. It's just like a slime class where we just make slime and then we go back to our house. I love this place.
I love that little voice at the end. Our architect is in that video shot getting slimed. I'm like, you're gonna be in all of these loops till the end of time. So thank you guys. You should have all gotten a little slime sample. So wait, the texture you have is cloud. If you wanna open it and touch it, don't be afraid. It's our most user-friendly for new slimers, and it's cashmere texture, soft and satisfying.
Yeah, show how you did that. Am I on? She showed me last night, and the way you did it, where it made it really soft, that was really cool.
Yes.
You had to really, because I tried to do it, and I, of course, ripped it.
You made a tight ball with yours.
I made a ball. So it is fun. It does sort of put you in that relaxed kid state.
Yeah, this one, if you stretch it, this is a small piece, but if you have a larger chunk and you stretch it and you kind of add air into it, you can then do a nice drizzle effect. There's a ton of different textures, so for those of you that got some of the bigger ones, which Carrie, I'm gonna give you one as well for coming to visit us, and I'm gonna ask a question to, again, positive reinforcement.
Does anyone have any questions for Marie?
I wonder if you can give, hi, Andrew Eklund with Cicerone.
Hi.
I'm wondering if you can give us a quick science for dummies. ASMR is like all over the place.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if you can talk to us about the linkage between the general state of anxiety, not just through the pandemic, but before that. You know, our kids are sort of known as generation anxiety. And I'm just curious, I assume that there's the correlation there, and what your scientific partners, how they support you.
Yeah, it's a great question. So for anyone that's not familiar, so ASMR is auto meridian response, and so different scents, sounds, things can be, actually, it's been proven, can trigger like the pleasure centers of your brain. And for some people, it swings both ways, so we have audio experiences in our spaces that are for the ASMR culture, and like whispers for me are not my favorite thing. It's like the hairs go up on my neck, but like bubble popping is satisfying for me. And so as we design our spaces, we're very cognizant of that. We try to leverage all 4 of the senses. We don't eat, but sight, sound, smell, and touch. And when you're playing with the slime, it's activating all of those, because you've got the touch, you've got the scent, you've got the color. So from a science standpoint, we do have a woman that I mentioned, Dr. Judith Joseph. She's our resident psychiatrist, so we tap her for a lot of the stats around the efficacy of what play in general, or tactile play, or immersive experiences, because our spaces are photo friendly, but we are not an Instagram house space. Like, we are inviting you to roll up your sleeves, dig in, and be completely hands-on with us. So you're reconnecting to yourself. It's a very grounding activity, and to others. You're not on your device, you're talking, you're playing, you're meeting strangers. It's actually really amazing to see and really fun for me, even going into our spaces all of the time. We also have partners that are on the science side, so we've partnered with Polytech research groups, we have partnered with, and we are in talks with a lot of the colleges in the different cities that we are putting our roots down about doing more studies together. So we've done some, we intend to do more, and from a editorial perspective on what's going on in the marketplace, we recently just did an event with Google, with a division that they launched, Google XI, around experience intelligence, about creating neuro-inclusive and physically inclusive environments, and the stats that they were bringing to the table around the state of psychology across age ranges is really driving a lot of this, to your point, and it's every day there's new data, so it's a daily task for us to kind of keep up on that. And groups like Mind Up also are partners for us for that.
Anyone else?
Hi, Lisa Erickson from Sleep Number. I mean, my mind is just going wild. This is really amazing. Couple things. First of all, have you thought about coming to the Mall of America in Minnesota?
So our COO and our new head of ops have been talking to us about Mall of America. They come from Lego, and so they're like, we got to go on a scouting trip to Mall of America.
I can give you a tour.
Okay, amazing.
And second, just thinking about how this actually ties into sleep and relaxation. Have you thought about that at all?
So relaxation, yes. Sleep, I can give you one response, which is anecdotal. It is a fact of something that happened, but it's an anecdotal story. Karen, our co-founder, hopefully not oversharing on her part, but her therapist was like, I shouldn't be telling you this, but another patient of mine their child kept asking to go to Sloomoo, and then went, and then was like, it had become like an obsessive thought, and it was like the first time that they were able to sleep, not only because of our business, but because of the tactile experience. I would venture to guess that that child is a sensory sensitive child and someone that benefits from more of that type of activity. We haven't, again, done like specific academic research in that space, but that was like a one-to-one correlation of kind of a self-selected moment. But we should definitely chat.
Congratulations, Scott Kennedy with T-Mobile. My question is with, and you had a slide up earlier talking about some of the other things you're starting to venture into with such a product with, it's a hands-on product. You have things on here like the metaverse and some games. Just curious from that standpoint, how you anticipate venturing out beyond the sort of touch and feel of the product, because it seems awesome and it seems like something that could translate well into like an app, like an app or something like that. Just curious how you're thinking about the product as it moves forward.
Yeah, so someone on my team, his name is Nicholas, that leads digital and e-commerce. He's been talking to us about wanting to create an app, and we were having like a healthy internal discussion on that. Because I was like, my old team members were like, no, don't build an app, regardless of this business, but just the future of what's happening in that space. So we have talked about it. I think something like that would be tied much more to, as we get an entertainment arm off the ground, that being kind of a home for things. I'm excited if we go in that space for then what that gives us from a customer profile standpoint, selfishly, and creepily from a Big Brother perspective. But as we go into other things that are in the digital space, like a metaverse, let's say, or entertainment universe, that's our opportunity to really play with the character development and the plot lines and storylines around like the Sloomoverse. And if you come into our venues, we've got AR that we've started to introduce, where you can go into, it's like a 360 environment where you're dropped under the ocean and Sloomoo swimming or a mushroom forest. And so that is obviously not a tactile experience. There are ways that we can try to create immersiveness through that, but it would be much more about kind of the full storytelling about the characters and their journey.
All right, well, before sorry, the light, I could not see it. Where?
Yeah, it's like a little blinding too.
Yeah, and as you ask questions through the 3 days, just say your name, who you are, and where you're from, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Hi, Debbie Haig, Los Angeles, American girl. Really fun, and I love that you started with this whole experience first. I'm on line. I went to the site. I've actually never gone to the store. The product's amazing. Like, are you trying to grow significantly on e-com, and are you looking to go into some mass retailers, or are you going to stay small and experiential only?
Yeah, so e-com is yes. So we already have, from a business standpoint, we have our brick and mortar, and this is just kind of for the room, but yeah, we've got the brick and mortar on the experience side and retail, and then we do currently have the e-commerce side to our business. So every 2 weeks we're releasing new products. We send an SMS, we send it in a newsletter, it's on the website. Very much like drop culture also, it's like first come, first serve, driving demand and selling out on purpose, and not restocking to create that kind of sense of urgency. From an e-com standpoint, we have a lot of work to do that we're currently doing, and a lot of it is on the fulfillment and operations side of profitability and the manpower, and also like the cost of diminishing return from a singular product unit and the cost to ship versus bulk products. There's also some mechanics that we are optimizing from a comm standpoint, and where we can get more efficient with drip comms and upsells and taking our ticketed customers and converting them as a loyalist on the e-commerce side. So it's a very big, very active, daily discussed topic.
Hi, Brian Shepard, Ground Truth. I'm from Boston. So when I see things like this, and you immediately think, why, I can't wait for one to come to my market, right? So
Boston's on the list, so rest assured.
Awesome. So question on that would be, have you thought about bringing the experience to people that can't get to a store? So I could almost see like an ambassador that goes to a party, goes to a house and does that. Is that something that's part of your plan as well?
Yeah. Sounds like you went like Tupperware journey towards it. I was like, oh yes, salesperson, or like Avon. Yeah, so we do outside of brick and mortar. We have, like in the cities we're in, we do pop-up experiences where we have a large inflatable character that is very hard to navigate, but very fun and photo-worthy. And we'll bring out the little samples, and we have what we call our egg vats, which are these custom designed sculptural pieces that house the slime. We have a tabletop version, so we'll bring that and we'll teach tricks on like how you make bubbles and do other things. We've also done, like we had a slime with Catherine Bernhardt, the artist, and then she was doing a show in London, and we shipped product, they zoomed in, we did a slime making class with the group in London at this art gallery where she was having a showcase. What we haven't done, and this is where my past life of being agency side and running experiential comes from, is we haven't done like tier kits of build the event in a box and do that at scale. We have the resources and the know-how to do it, we just haven't invested there yet because so much of our priority has been getting people into our doors, but we very much can and intend to do kind of that scalable model.
Okay, well, I think we have probably more questions, but we can ask afterwards for Marie. But Marie, before, you need to turn around and show your back of your jacket.
It's like,
Right,
I was
that's
debating, we have a beanie with eyes too, and I was like, I can't do like eyes in the front and the back, that's a little intense.
Well, that is awesome. And everyone, give a big round of applause for Marie Kelly.
Thank you.